over the last 7 or 8 years that I've been dividend investing, due to the nature of my specific strategy being that I'm looking to invest into high quality different dividend paying stocks and ETFs that all pay a decent starting yield from the start, or if not, have massive dividend growth historically. Because my longer term goal is to not only have my portfolio move up in price over time, of course, but also I want to get this portfolio to a point to where it earns me, say, $8, $9, $10,000 per month of dividends long term. And throughout the years, I've invested into tons of different stocks and ETFs that all have different strategies, etc. But over time, one of my favorite investment vehicles, especially in the context of trying to get my portfolio to the most dividend income possible on a monthly basis, has been invested into things like JEPI, QYLD, Jepq, or other names like SPYI or even QQQi. But the question still remains, which is my favorite, or which is honestly the best higher yielding high income style ETF across the entire market as of today in 2024? Well, I have good news for you, because in today's video, we're going to go through SPYI, we're going to look into QQQi, we're going to also talk about JEPI, Jepq, and QYLD. We're going to go through all the stats of all these different cover call style, higher income style, income focused ETFs that investors like myself utilize to get their dividend income up a lot faster than other traditional investments. Then towards the end of the video, I'm going to share with you which of these ETFs is honestly the best and figure out exactly which ETF could be the perfect pick. So if you're a dividend and or income focused investor that wants some answers when it comes to some of these higher yielding ETFs, I promise you, you're going to want to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. Real quick, for those that haven't already, make sure to go to the first link in my description and grab my new dividend investing ebook, where I share exactly how I went from $0 invested to now earning over $6,000 on a monthly basis and over $1 million invested in the markets. Along with the ebook, you're also going to receive my custom dividend tracker, where you can track your dividend progress on an ongoing basis and reach your dividend investing goals. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. Now, for starters, the reason we're talking about SPYI, the reason we're talking about QQQi and JEPI, Jepq, and QYLD, the reason being that we're going through these 5 income-focused ETFs is simply because these are probably 5 of my favorite ETFs with a certain style, with a certain strategy, and all 5 of these ETFs have found a spot in my portfolio, some of them even for several years now. Now, although every single one of these ETFs have sort of a different strategy, the strategies sort of remain the same. Every single one of these ETFs are really focused on generating consistent income for dividend income-focused investors that even potentially want to use some of the income to live off of later on. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that all these different ETFs have been around for a different amount of time. So of course, it's going to be sort of hard to compare certain metrics because there hasn't been all that much data for some of the ETFs, especially some of the newer ones like the NEOS ones. And lastly, I'll just mention that I do go through all these ETFs in great detail throughout my channel. So make sure to check out some other videos, because in this video specifically, we're not going to be digging exactly into every single one of these ETFs and explain exactly how they work, their strategies. We're just trying to figure out which ETF is best. So first off, if we were to line up every single one of these ETFs next to each other and see what their price performance has been over multiple different time frames, we're not talking about total return here, so we're not talking about dividends at all. We're just seeing how much every single one of these ETFs have really went up or down over different time frames as far as price return goes, which again, side note, is not all that important, specifically in the context of income-focused ETFs, because total return, which is dividends plus price return, is going to be a main focus or main metric. So in the 1 month time frame, basically every single one of these ETFs more or less is up around 1% or 2%. The 6 month time frame, this is going to be the max time frame that we really can look at, because QQQi has only been trading for around 166 days. So all the other ones have more data to go off of. But on the 6 month time frame, we have 6.13% return as far as price return goes for QQQi, SPYI just short of 6%, QYLD is just short of 3%, Jepq is up 10.5%, and JEPI is up around 3%. Now, year to date, SPYI is up around 6%, QYLD is up around 3.6%, Jepq is up around 12%, and JEPI is up around 3.4%. Now, the 1 year time frame, this is where things get interesting. Jepq is by far in the lead at around 14% price return goes. Then number 2 would be JEPI at 2.6%, SPYI at 1.91%, and of course QYLD with minus 0.3%. Now, what's also interesting, and this is going to be very important, especially when you're investing into different stocks or ETFs that have a higher yield than average, looking at the max time frame as far as price return goes, SPYI is positive, QQQi is positive, JEPI is also positive, Jepq is also positive, but lastly, QYLD is not positive. QYLD has decayed like crazy over the years, and although QYLD has paid a nice dividend yield consistently, this ETF is down almost 30% on the max time frame. Now, looking at another important metric, especially in the context of income generation for income-focused investors looking to invest into any of these. SPYI has an 11.52% trailing 12-month dividend yield. QYLD has 11.4%. Jepq has an 8.79%. JEPI has a 7.27%, and QQQi, because this ETF has only been around for a few months, there's not any data on Seeking Alpha, but this ETF has around a 14-15% trailing 12-month dividend yield. So as far as dividend yield or income generation goes, I think at least so far, QQQi would be in the lead, with SPYI and probably QYLD being in the number 2 spot, and then JEPI and Jepq, depending on which month we're in, if there's volatility or not, these two are going to be yielding a little bit less. Now, I think it's safe to say, and I think we can all agree that out of these 4 ETFs, looking for the absolute best one, I think it's pretty safe at this point to completely eliminate QYLD just because the price return has been so poor over the long term. So now that we're left with SPYI, QQQi, JEPI, and Jepq, I think going off of the metrics, price return, and of course dividend yield goes, because JEPI has not grown all that much and doesn't offer all that large of a dividend yield, a 7.27% trailing 12-month dividend yield with only 3.23% appreciation as far as ETF price goes over the last year, I think JEPI also is going to have to get kicked to the curb, unfortunately. So now that we're left with SPYI, we're left with QQQi, and we are left with Jepq. These 3, in my humble opinion, at least so far, and I say so far because some of these ETFs have not even been trading all that long, so we don't really have a long-term data set to go off of, but out of all the higher yielding, higher income style ETFs, SPYI, QQQi, and Jepq are all extremely solid in my opinion. Now, if you're an income-focused investor, focused on cash flow, but also want to see things move up and to the right as far as price return goes, although every single one of these ETFs do have the potential to do so, Jepq out of all 3 have moved up like crazy over the last year or two. So even though SPYI is showing a very promising future, and this is personally a large position in my portfolio, and I keep buying more and more shares daily, along with QQQi, the NEOS Nasdaq 100 High Income ETF, which I'm looking to build out more and more of a position as time goes on, I personally still think out of all the higher income, higher yielding ETFs, if you wanted to paint a complete picture and try to find the quote-unquote best one, I still think Jepq, the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF, sort of has the best potential to make you rich and pay you a ton of income along the way. But like I said a minute ago, although I already have a large position of Jepq in my portfolio, I'm looking to build out the NEOS Nasdaq 100 High Income ETF, and I have been building my SPYI position over the last few months. But now lastly, most importantly, when it comes to the higher income, higher yielding ETFs that we talked about in this video, I'm talking about QYLD, JEPI, Jepq, and QQQi along with SPYI. If you could only choose one to buy and hold forever, which one would it be and why? Let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.